Cole's Little Treehouse presents Terry and the Tooth Fairy. Written by Andy Griffiths and Terry Denton and read by Stig Weems. Hi, I'm Andy. I live in a treehouse with my friend Terry and we make books together. I write the words and he draws the pictures. Hi, I'm Terry. I live in a treehouse with my friend Andy and we make books together. I draw the pictures and he writes the words. Hi, I'm Jill. I live in a house full of animals in the forest near my friends Andy and Terry. I like animals and solving problems and doing puzzles.
And I'm Silky. I'm a canary and I can fly. And I'm Jill's favourite pet.
If you're like most of our listeners, you're probably wondering what the Tooth Fairy does with all the teeth she collects. Well, I used to wonder too, until the time I followed the Tooth Fairy to Fairyland and found out. Whee! Off to Fairyland! It all started one day when Andy had a terrible toothache. Oh, my aching tooth, said Andy. Ow! Oh! I've got an idea, I said. Why don't you take your tooth out, put it in a glass of water, and then the Tooth Fairy will give you some money, and we can go to Mary Lollypoppins' lolly shop and buy some lollies. I've tried wiggling it, said Andy, but my tooth just won't budge. Well, that's okay, I said. I know a great way to remove teeth. All you have to do is hold still while I tie this piece of string around your tooth. And then I'll tie the other end of the string to this doorknob. And when I slam the door, the tooth will come flying out of your head. This won't hurt, will it? Said Andy. No, not a bit, I said. It will be over before you know it. Ready, set, slam! But the tooth didn't come flying out of Andy's mouth. And Andy went flying across the room. Are you okay, Andy? I said. No, he said. Now I've got a toothache and a headache. Oh, sorry, I said. That's one tough tooth you've got there. But I've got another idea. Come with me. I took Andy to the forest and tied him to a tree. Then I tied the string to a piece of rope and got all the forest animals to hold on to it. Pull! I shouted. Pull! We all pulled as hard as we could. You're standing on my foot, Trunkinator! Giant rabbit, pull harder! And finally, out popped Andy's tooth. Thanks, Terry, said Andy. And even though it wasn't bedtime yet, he went straight to bed and fell fast asleep. I went to have a very quiet bath so I wouldn't disturb Andy. And I've written a little poem about what happened next. 'Twas the day of the toothache, when all through the tree not a creature was stirring, no, not even me. Andy's tooth had been placed in a small glass with care, in the hopes that the Tooth Fairy soon would be there. Andy was nestled all snug in his bed, while visions of gold coins danced in his head, and me in the bathtub blowing a bubble trying my hardest to stay out of trouble. When out in the forest there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my bath to see what was the matter. A towel wrapped around me, I flew like a breeze to the edge of the decking and peered through the leaves. And what to my wondering eyes should appear but a little steam-powered machine drawing near, and a tiny toy truck with a miniature crane from which dangled a hook on a small golden chain, all led by a figure so lively and airy, I knew in a moment it must be the Tooth Fairy. More rapid than eagles to the treehouse she came, and she whistled and shouted and called her helpers by name. Come Achy, come Mola, come Driller, come Smash, to the top of the tree, to the bedroom let's dash, and we'll heave away, haul away our pearly prize, for it's teeth that we gather, no matter the size. And up through the treehouse the tiny crew flew, with both their machines and the Tooth Fairy too. They parked their small truck on Andy's sweet head and lowered the hook to the glass by his bed. And then with a chant of tooth heave and tooth ho, the tooth was brought up from the water below. It was placed in the truck and tied up very tightly with gossamer ropes that glistened quite brightly. The Tooth Fairy flitted and fluttered with glee. Pay him, she said, his Tooth Fairy fee. The machine began whirring. It whistled and blew, and then out of a slot a $2 coin flew. Up through the air flew the newly made cash, then into the glass it fell with a splash. And now, said the fairy, it's home we must dash to deliver this tooth for the Queen's birthday bash. She sprang to the truck, to her team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard her exclaim as she flew out of sight, thanks for the tooth, and to all a good night. I decided to follow, for to tell you the truth, I wanted to see what they'd do with the tooth. Across land, sea and rivers, the fairy crew flew, and not far behind them, I also flew too. For hours and hours I followed that band, until finally we reached it, the famed Fairyland. The lights of the city were sparkling and shining, and fairies galore were all dancing and dining. The city was holding a great celebration, a big birthday treat for the Queen of their nation. Andy's tooth was unloaded by the fairies with care, put into a cannon and shot into the air. And though not a good tooth, it was badly corroded. Andy's molar looked great as it boomed and exploded. Who would have thought that a tooth with decay could produce such a wonderful fireworks display? Ah, woo, ah, woo. The Queen thanked the fairies for her birthday surprise and for the amazing display that had dazzled her eyes. And that is the story of Andy's old tooth. I was there and I saw it, and I swear it's the truth. The end. Thanks for listening. See you in the treehouse.